Thank you, everyone, and welcome to this brainstorming panel, as Dr. Reena Nair said. And in next few minutes, we shall be discussing the questions. We'll take advices from our experts. So, first, I would like to ask, each one of you from different countries. Let me start with Dr. Supinchu, who's a very dear friend and colleague, and we share, a lot of our thoughts towards women from college, which are similar. So, how is the gender climate at your country or your workplace, and what you see as far as the leadership is concerned?
We're quite fortunate in Singapore in that gender is less of an issue. I think people look at you in terms of not based on gender, but based on your credibility and based on merit. But saying that, there are always still from the some people, some men in particular, who will always have this, as what Solange said about stereotypes. I give you an example which we discussed in our chat group the last time, which is, for example, when a woman starts in the middle of career, she starts to have family and kids, and then there's a project that needs to be done, and then not that the male colleague thinks the male boss thinks that she's less able, but it's like, oh yeah, she's gonna have family and kids, let's pass the project to someone who has more time to do it. She's probably not gonna be focused on work anymore. She's gonna be more focused on the new kid and family. And I always wonder, why does that need to be the case? We women are known to be able to multitask and juggle our time. If this is a project that is, just as an example, right? That is best suited to that individual. I don't see how having a family life should get in the way of the project, especially if there's adequate support. At the same time, I think that there's the other side of the coin, which is women ourselves sometimes we do not allow ourselves to step up and take the lead role. Sometimes it's lack of confidence. Sometimes we always say, no, I think family is more important, let someone else do it. But how come that family, husbands or fathers also are part of the family? How come they don't think that way as well? I mean, I'm just starting the conversation going. But in general, I would say that in Singapore, we have many women in leadership roles, but we have done surveys before where there's still a gap. And that gap is shifting, but of course, there's still a lot of work to be done.
So thank you very much. And I think you have said everything, what was required and what is the fact. So now I'll move to Nepal. So Dr. Ramila, different kind of countries and different setup, different work culture. So what is your experience? What do you feel the workforce disparity in your country and how women in colleges is perceived?
Thank you, Jyoti ma'am. So in Nepal, in especially like in oncology, the numbers of women are like quite high in comparison to other disciplines in medicine. The radiation oncology was started by the woman Dr. Tara Manandar. So the oncology services started from a woman. So that's a fortunate thing for Nepal. However, like when we see like medical oncology, we have a society for Nepalese Association of Medical Oncology, and if we see that the proportion of men to women oncologists is around 25% are only women, whereas the 75% are men. And in terms of like managerial roles or in terms of head of departments in various academic institutions, especially in oncology, it's more like as in other parts, it's more men oriented. Men are more likely to be the heads and in managerial roles. For now, in my like the place where I am working in my medical oncology department, I'm the only woman medical oncologist. Rest all are men, so there's a quite certain gender gap that exists, especially like in medical oncology and in surgical oncological fields. And I think there are in response to stereotypes as discussed by the experts in the previous session, it exists especially in countries like ours, where the culture is so that like women are supposed to stay at home and take care of the family. So like when it comes to major roles and especially managerial roles, people like hesitate to give you a lead role, thinking that maybe you will be more like affected by the family and you have to do your family roles. And it has been affected quite a lot during this COVID, as we all have
Right.
experienced.
We will discuss the COVID questions a bit later, but you are absolutely spot on, and you have mentioned few of the burning issues about the biases people have, and a medical oncologist or a woman oncologist, they are facing the they're challenged with dual responsibilities, as well as the stereotyping in the minds of family people as well as the professional colleagues. So I will just, in the interest of time, I have to be bit fast. So I will come again to you. I will move to Dr. Asima Lokman, and this picture is showing the gender survey report in India, and I will ask my Indian colleague, Dr. Bhavna Parik, to comment upon what is the situation in India, and then move to Dr. Asima Lokman for things in Pakistan.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for this opportunity. I think we have similar problems like what Dr. Ramila almost described. And I work in a different situation. I am an individual private practitioner oncologist. I am not bound to one department or one institute. Initial phase of my practice, especially first 5 years and all, definitely I did have more problems. And what I have felt is that some of the male colleagues, they do not take female consultants seriously. And they sometimes feel that, okay, maybe you'll come, but whether you will be able to really take up the serious cases or serious references, or whether I should really give you references. And then they sort of observe you for some time. And once you have proven yourself, then things are a little bit smoother. No doubt about that part of the story. But yes, the things do remain. And sometimes also I have found male colleagues, ganging up, especially when you are alone. You are the only female oncologist in the department, because I work at 3-4 hospitals. So I have different departments and I have different colleagues in all the hospitals. So, but it does matter. There is no question about that. We cannot deny that fact. But we have to find our own ways to circumvent it. I ultimately feel that we have to be alert all the time and try and face this situation, continue doing good work. And when we continue doing good work, ultimately the appreciation comes.
Sure. So this is the Indian report. The same, survey was from ESMO. So things were quite similar in Europe or Asia or India. So this is something which is alarming, that women, although they make the majority of the workforce in medicine or in oncology, but when it comes to the leadership roles, they are very, very limited. And we heard Dr. Solange and Dr. Pilar on this. So I will, I will listen to them as well after Dr. Asima Lokman. So Dr. Asima, your country's situation and what biases you face.
Thank you, Dr. Jyoti. As in my country, there are a lot of female oncologists, both the medical and radiation oncologists. And currently, I don't think that regarding professional speciality, there is no bias. But in terms of patients coming to male doctors, and preferring the female doctors, yes, our male colleagues do dominate. But however, in big university hospitals, the situation is that the patients, they have to go to the female doctors, and me being the first in South Punjab, I was the first female oncologist in South Punjab in Pakistan. I haven't faced any such bias. I was encouraged by my supervisor and by colleagues to work, and they were very supportive regarding my family life as well. And that's the reason I'm here today.
Right. So I think it's a mixed picture. Sometimes people face some difficulties. Sometimes they are supportive people, but what we understood that there are biases which we exist, and gradually we need to circumvent. So I will move to Dr. Roshni. You are from Dr. Roshni Bhagwat. You are from a different setup. So we have heard different countries' perspective. Dr. Bhavna Parikh from India, from a metropolitan city. Now I will move to Jabalpur. Dr. Roshni Bhagwat, you are working in a private sector in a small, comparatively middle or small city. What kind of challenges you face as far as the perception of patient, families, male colleagues, women colleagues?
In a small city, there is an issue of a patriarchal attitude to women. As we see in India, the medical students, girls join more for becoming doctors, but as they grow up, at MD level, there is a very high attrition rate. In Jabalpur, when I joined, the attitude was that female professionals are less committed, so one does not take them seriously. Also, there is a gender stereotype at home. So you are expected to do more than a man at home because the man is the traditional breadwinner. As far as patients are concerned, once they see your professional attitude and commitment, I think women are as good as men, even in this smaller place.
Great to hear you. So I think what we understood that path is difficult. There are various types of perceptions, and generally it is a stereotyping which majority of our colleagues face wherever they are, and you need to validate yourself again and again. And this is a common issue. Even many other times when I talk to many people in different phases of their career, this is the general thing which come up, that man they are considered as natural leaders, while the women, if they are people see them with a suspicion, with a doubt whether they will really perform, and many times it requires a validation. So I will move to our experts here. Dr. Janice Singh, your opinion, and then I will move to Solange and Pilar.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, thank you, Jyoti, for bringing us all together. We have actually, with the blessing of Solange and also Pilar, basically last year we did a focus group research interview with actually various groups, from junior fellows to consultants to senior, well-rounded women with families set up, and also our male colleagues. Some interesting conclusions being, I think it's interpretation of the conclusion that differs a bit from our observation, despite we are still feeling this kind of both conscious and unconscious bias. So at the end of the conclusion, especially those senior positions, be it female or male, was discussing, I think that's open for discussion, whether is it the choice of the women oncologists who opt to take more care of the families rather than there's some structural issues. Of course, for us who are dedicated for women's oncology, I think there are much gaps in so much that we should do. The conscious or unconscious bias being our colleagues, be it women or male, they think that it is our choice for those who actually left the system, or like what Supin has shared, that one of her colleagues actually give the good reason or excuse, or because we need to take care of the family, so we need to pass the projects to someone else. Whether this is really their real option, their choice, or it's just very superficial that it was presented as a choice, because in Asian culture, we try to be harmonious and diplomatic rather than speaking up about the bias. And something that's very interesting, which I still have a question mark when I discuss with our technical advisor, who is actually expert in gender research, is when we try to actually draw all the brains inside out throughout the research interviews, it is 2-hour interview with all the interviewees, none of them actually agree that there is bias. They think that, oh, actually we have advanced so much. It was only with the group in the young fellows that they strongly actually echo what we say. Oh, yes, we still feel the bias. We still the sort of like unconscious bias and conscious bias. So that's what's been happening in Hong Kong. At the moment, we have Meadows and Clinons, about 220 altogether, and we have about 70 women oncologists in Hong Kong. So still a small group. And yes, basically just echo all the findings. At top levels, it's still male dominant.
Very well said, Janice. And Solange, your views on whatever our colleagues are discussing here and otherwise too.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Not so much to add. I think most of the considerations about gender gap have been evoked. Maybe they impact your life to a variable extent depending where you are. But maybe they are, for me, importantly, speaking about the battle and the fights to come, I would say they might be probably according where you are, 2 levels of complexity. The first one is society level, meaning having a family. That is the first blockage, the first wall we hit when we are a woman because of society, I would say, attitude that women take care of kids, or sometimes even childcare facilities do not exist or are not available. So it's a very practical issue that, of course, has to be solved first, because you cannot be a woman not having the choice. You can decide not to have kids, it's absolutely fine, but you need to have the choice. So that's maybe the first layer. But maybe the second chapter, which is more vicious, more stereotyped, more, I would say, degrading probably for women, what we call the ceiling, right, should never be forgotten about. And in a country like mine, lots of efforts have been done for childcare facilities, maternity leaves, and so on and so forth, even paternal leave. Now the father can leave for some weeks, but they have stopped their effort there. Meaning that still in my institution, only 20%, honestly it's 15, of professors are women. So if you do everything around maternity and family okay for women, or even perfect, still you don't have women being professors. So the second chapter is probably way more difficult. It's about all these little things, the stereotypes. I call it degrading because it's all the things which affect the perception that the society has for women. Capabilities, how smart we are, how agile we are in the environment, how fast we can be. You know, remember the Google echo chamber, how we can be also calculating, mathematics, scientific. So all these little things which still kind of tag women as being inferior. So I think that's probably when you speak about initiatives, we really need to change the perceptions that many societies have from women. And it can only come by a constant effort of publishing, showing, giving speeches, talks, and collaborating with men, even if you are the only one, but just showing that at the end you deliver as much work as men. But this will take more time, right? So the perfect environment is still to come, but it's really in the little things of daily business that we have to show that there's no difference in what we do.
Great. So I think we'll move to Pilar for your views as well on the discussion going on. Very, very interesting. Or meanwhile, we will ask our other colleagues, Dr. Anjana Joel, who is from an academic center in India. So your views, Anjana.
So I think in academics and generally,
and I'll request everyone to please on your camera so that I can easily see who are, because it's a big panel and it's difficult to recall who all are left.
So something I feel I kind of struggle with in academics, especially in India, is that there is no designated time for research. You are expected to do a lot of your clinical work, and then research also is expected to happen along with that. And then so in my hospital, we are allowed to take things called study leave and sabbatical, where we're allowed to go, say, abroad and work for a year and go to a center of excellence. So for us, those, we look forward to those like a year or two off, because those are welcome breaks and maybe you can focus on a research job. The other issue which I also face as an academic and as a mom of two children is that, when you have male colleagues, it's so easy for them to just drop everything and travel to a conference, network, every, at least once or twice a month. But for us, every weekend, or even once a month to travel is a struggle. So virtual meetings now in the era of COVID are really a blessing for me. The other thing is in an academic setting, in the MDT, like somebody else mentioned, male colleagues who do not want to hearing them that, you are doing a good job and then they will probably change. And the other thing that I've kind of noticed is that male colleagues need to be told often or need to be constant, and sometimes, it is not ingrained in them. So they don't consciously make an effort to recognize it. And so you need to sort of gently, point it out to them. Sometimes you need to call out unfair, unreasonable biased behavior, and that makes it kind of unpleasant for other people. And well, we can always raise our sons to be better to the next generation, I think. That's it.
So very well, especially the last point, I would like to underscore that definitely we need to raise the next generation much much more balanced and sensitive towards the gender equity and needs for that. As we'll move on. So now I will ask Dr. Deepa Suzanne. So Deepa is from TMH, very dear colleague, and now we will hear from her that what are the different kind of challenges a women oncologists face.
So distinguished delegates, my most respected teachers on the panel and off the panel, and dear colleagues, today I have just 5 points which I will take exactly 5 minutes with your permission. My first point is a word of thanks, sincere thanks for hope. It's an honor, opportunity, privilege and experience for me to be a part of this unique and special panel, a panel of women oncologists, for women oncologists and by women oncologists. And my second point is, why am I here today in this panel? The very simple answer is because Jyoti ma'am invited me to it. And I'm definitely not here to fight with male colleagues here, because we all know that knowledge, attitude, behavior, they are not X or Y linked traits. But what I sincerely wish, hope and pray for is a change of philosophy. What we have is an age-old seesaw philosophy where if I have to go up, I have to push down my XY colleague. And in the seesaw philosophy, it's that we all go up together, irrespective of the number of X and Y chromosomes in us as a team. As together, we all achieve more. And the broad 5 barriers which I could think of to this Dream Escalator project are the 5 S. First is self, that is myself. Second is the seesaw colleagues. Third, superiors and subordinates. Fourth is the system. And fifth is a socio-cultural and family-created Lakshmana Rekhas. Fortunately, and with God's grace, I have had great colleagues, teachers and mentors during my training at TMH, both male and female, colleagues at RCC, and great family support from my father, so to give me the right direction. So except for the first test, the last 4 fortunately have been very positive for me. So I cannot think of any meaningful, clinically significant barrier in the other 4S. So I will concentrate only on the first S, that is from A to F. A for attitude and mindset. We all say that attitude and not just the aptitude will decide our altitude. But for the mindset, all throughout my training, I've focused on developing my skill set and I've not bothered about the mindset. So I've always remained a fixed mindset. Whenever there is a feedback or criticism from a male colleague, I used to take it very personally. But gradually with time, I've realized that it's important to develop a growth mindset. And second is beliefs or limiting beliefs. The baby elephant philosophy. We all know that an elephant is tied to a pole with a very flimsy chain. We all wonder why that elephant is not using its might to destroy, to break the chain. That's because as a baby, it has been trained that it cannot break it. So I also had similar such limiting beliefs as a child. As a girl, that girl should be soft, should be docile, should remain silent, should be passive, should not be aggressive, and never say a no, and then you are a good girl. And as it was already said in the previous talk, that We should be demanding yet caring, and we should be authoritative yet participative. C for competence and confidence. We are like tea bags and we understand our strength, our true strength, only when we are in the hot water. And D is for disability. It's not a true disability, but ever since I was a child and when I start speaking, for the first 5 minutes, everyone would be asking, what happened to your voice? Why is your voice like this? Is it like this since childhood? And have you been screaming continuously at home? And during my ENT posting, everyone would do an indirect laryngoscopy on me. So I became so conscious and that I stopped talking. I became an introvert, or rather I became antisocial. Then many of my good teachers, even my father, used to tell me that there's nothing wrong with your voice. Just as every mango in a mango tree is deliciously different, everyone has a different voice and you are just differently abled. Next is about the EQ and IQ balance. I used to be a true emotional fool. And every time somebody says something little, I used to start crying. I used to feel angry, but definitely not expressing it. And I had a big problem with saying no to anyone in life. Gradually, I learned that it's quite easy to be angry. But what is difficult is to learn how to be angry with the right person at the right time for the right purpose to the right degree. And gradually, I'm trying to learn that art of saying a no. Last but not the least is F, that is forgetting God's grace and God's blessings. We all have our share of ups and downs, peaks and valleys in life. And when we are faced with a challenge, we start questioning and forgetting God. And the solution I've found to it today in presenting challenging times is to write a gratitude diary where I write 10 good things that happened every day. And there is nothing impossible, as impossible itself says that I am possible, as it's always impossible. So these were the main 6 challenges which I faced as a self. Yes,
so thank you, Deepa, and you're always, we always enjoy listening to you right from your residency days. So in the interest of time, I have to move. Otherwise, we keep on listening to many other points from you. So now I will move to Jyoti Vadhva. We are having Dr. Jyoti Vadhva with us. So Jyoti, one quick point we want to hear from you. Do you ever face a situation where in a position or promotion, some things, a rank is offered to much junior male colleague, ignoring the skill set or efficiency, whether you faced it or somebody else, you want to mention this and how it should be dealt with. Because many people personally, when they connect, they describe this to me. So I want to hear.
Yeah, sure. So I would agree, and if not personally, but in my surroundings, I would agree with you all, and we must all accept that there is, if not overt, but subtle gender bias. So if not for our own selves, but we have seen others, definitely experiencing it once in a while. One viewpoint that I wanted to make, after listening to others before me, and a different viewpoint that I'm sure the younger oncologists would relate with more, is that, your seniors often know and recognize that being a woman, you are more sincere, hardworking, and dependable. And therefore, in your, when you are young in your professional growth, you may be, given important assignments which warrant more time and dedication and hard work. But ultimately, you may not have got the entire or full credit for that, maybe with a publication or presentation or, acknowledgement. So that's something that somebody could face as a woman oncologist in the beginning of their career. So this was something different that I thought I'll bring forth. The other thing is that, we as women oncologists are often multitasking. We are trying to, better ourselves as oncologists, trying to be a better mom, better wife, better daughter, and as in teaching institutions, as better teachers also. So we should, I think, take pride in that and not, suffer from early burnout or physical exhaustion or mental or emotional drain. So we need to, recognize these points and, turn them into our strength. Because it's very important to be aware of the problems so that we can, solve them. So that's the viewpoint on the peculiar challenges that we face.
Sure. So moving ahead, and I would ask now this question to Dr. Mansi Shah. Dr. Mansi, you are there? Or Dr. Minu Walia, I have just seen Dr. Minu. I haven't asked any question from you so far. Or I'll shift to Dr. Poonam Patil while those people are
Sorry.
taking. Sorry. So Dr. Minu and then Dr. Poonam. So Dr. Minu, your take on the stereotyping. Dr. Solange also mentioned in her talk, and we see often that there is a general perception, be it in a family or in professional world, that women should be like this and men should be like this. For example, men are generally perceived as natural leaders, skillful, confident, and if they are very affirmative, it is considered, this is a skillful man. That's why this is an attitude. However, if the similar kind of firm attitude is from a woman, it is considered she is very aggressive. And so, why this kind of different perception for similar kind of behavior? I want to hear from you.
First of all, before beginning, Jyoti, I must compliment. I'm glad you took up this subject, and that too a very, very important topic and need of the hour. And it's sad, but it's true that we all are. I hope my voice is clear. I was actually
Yeah,
typing.
it's clear. Yeah, go ahead.
It's sad, but it's true that we all stereotype, we all try to label the genders, whether it is the XX chromosome or the XY chromosome. And I must admit that we women also, to a lot of extent, are party to it. I mean, let's be frank about it. For example, if I have to, I do talk about the gender biases. I do talk about that whenever the work-life balance is to be maintained, I'm at a disadvantage. I have a family to look after. All these kind of things, the promotions and workplace. But what is also important is when I am the person who is recruiting a new fresh person or a younger person, a junior under me, then am I biased or not? And the fact is that I am also biased. So if I am recruiting a young girl, a junior doctor under me who has just got married, I'll be at the back of my mind, I will start thinking about, yes, probably tomorrow she will go for a maternity leave and then I will have to go do without her and all these, and probably she will have a family to look after. So we also are in fact a party to it, and a high time. Yes, we also need to change. We also need to have those changes engraved and start. Not only we expect from the society, but we women also should come out as the first supporters. I mean, I think there was a question earlier from your side about ganging. But most of the time, if you see, it is not the men who are so biased, but it is the women also who are biased against the other women. So that is also we need to understand.
Very well said, and I think this we must even in the previous speaker's talk we noticed, and this is a day-to-day situation. So I would say yes, a woman who is rising a ladder, who wants to rise a ladder, she generally faces both kind of biases, the biases from the male colleagues as well as from a woman colleagues. So something needs to be done, and I'm not saying that all men are at fault. There are many men who are supportive as well. So there has to be some balance which needs to be established. So that is it. I will quickly go to Dr. Poonam, and in the interest of time, I request everyone to be very crisp. So Dr. Poonam, why this is stereotyping? Why women should be always nice, and this nice actually meaning in inverted commas submissive. This should not be authoritative. An authoritative woman is not perceived nicely. This is a perception from many women, which I know, which I receive feedback from.
Yes, so as Dr. Meenu rightly said, I think we women have also brought it upon us, and we take pride in saying that we are multitasking, we are homemakers, we are doing our job. I'm getting up in the morning at 4 o'clock, preparing lunch for the family and breakfast for the family, then going to work, coming back in the evening by 6:37, preparing dinner, and then going off to sleep by 10:30. We take pride in that, but I think that is what has brought on the problem on women as well, that we have to see how we can delegate the work. When we talk of work delegation in the hospital, the same way we have to delegate work in the house also. So this, I think, the multitasking that we are doing, though it is a skillful job, because everybody cannot do it, but I think we have to change our attitude. Why should we be the only one who have to look after the family? Family is for everybody. Home is for everybody. Hospital is for everybody.
Absolutely. So I think these conscious as well as subconscious biases towards ourselves, we need to correct, and also society needs to take these corrective actions. So it is not a woman's primary responsibility to do all those work at home. It is equal responsibility, and it is not only linguistically equal responsibility, because many times we hear from many people who come forward and say this, but actually there are subconscious biases which you always feel either in an overt way or more commonly in a subtle manner. So this is existing at home, this is existing at workplace as well. So we will move from here. Mansi Shah has messaged me that she is speaking, but we are not able to hear for some technical reasons. So now we have with us Dr. Smita Kayal. Dr. Smita, your point on this, and then we will again move to Dr. Pilar and Dr. Solange to know their viewpoints on the discussion about the stereotyping, how to navigate, and how to say no. So that is also very, very important. Do we have? Yeah, Smita, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Jyoti, for this invitation in the forum. Most of the issues have already been discussed.
I'm asking you the COVID issue, that's why.
Okay.
How COVID has impacted. So there are some studies also I'm showing on the screen. And what is your perception? Does such pandemic, so COVID is one of the example. I mean to say that some natural, catastrophes or some other issues, how they, adversely impact the fairer gender. Why it should be?
So fortunately, I have not come across the specific gender bias with relation to COVID at my workplace, because the COVID has impacted everybody, and as I am a single woman, I do not manage family. I've been able to contribute to the work equally. So with COVID related, it has not been a major impact on work or a personal life in terms of professional work also.
Sure. So, Solange, can we hear your views on this? Because this pandemic is, is actually affecting everyone. But we have seen in our survey, which we have done from Women from Oncology, ESMO, that it has widened the gender gap. And you very wisely said that we may endanger that women, they may disappear from the major meetings, and we have to do something for this.
Yeah, it's interesting because I must say the COVID impact is not only the woman gap, which is worsened, but we know that any crisis, as soon as it is something, I would say, significant for the general population, will trigger all inequalities, all pre-existing inequalities. And the gender, I would say, equality fight, or I would say concern, is something which is fragile. The reason why we speak today, it's small advances over time, acquired really reasonably without any susceptibility. So something which is maybe the damage of these triggered inequalities, right? So the risk when you move, like in this chapter, slowly and delicately, in order not to be perceived wrongly, right? And we just move with science, we move with showing our capabilities in producing, discussing, being doctors. So as soon as a crisis like that happen, not only my two chapters crash, but the two of them crash. What I mean is, first of all, we lose our ability to spend time on research and to fight against the ceiling and the stereotypes. But the second thing is we go back to the family, because suddenly the society paradigm of women taking care of the kids who cannot go to school, for example, during lockdown, but also of the family at large, the grandma, the cousin, the aunts, comes back running, right? So no science and family roles being to be covered again, right? So that's really what we will have to go again from, right? We will have stepped back somehow. But I agree with the colleague before, going back or trying to find concrete advances. It might be about trying to redefine, redistribute our organization. It can be our husband or partner. I'm not married, for example, but it can be a partner, husband, or it can be some family members helping you, but you need to potentially put in place something which is more solid, because that's what we know now. When it's fragile, it crashes, right? And it crashed during COVID. So we will have to make an additional effort.
So very well said. When it is fragile, it is bound to crash. So we need to consolidate it in a manner that it should not be in the similar situation what we faced in this pandemic. So we have to make ourselves more strong mentally and as a system together. I will move to Dr. Supin on this. Your experience on stereotyping.
Oh, me? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think stereotypes exist all over the world. It's not just with gender bias, but with obviously with every other stereotype related to ethnicity and so on. If you, I think biases exist and always starts with us. So I mean, we talked about this, and I don't want to repeat things that's already mentioned by you, lovely ladies. I really thank the ladies here for sharing from the heart. But I would, rather than to answer your question, Jyoti, I was thinking about, I had some thoughts about this whole topic and what we can do about it as women. And I think it starts with a few things. Starts with us first, that we have to believe in ourselves as women, as credible women in society, in oncology. The second thing we could do, what can we do as self, is to reach out and be mentors to our female colleagues, our junior colleagues, and be models for them to replicate. I've always talked about this, about the lack of female models, role models in oncology in particular. And then as a society, as women in oncology, I think we can be kinder to each other. As mentioned by many of the doctors here, how women are biased towards each other. I think we are a bit kinder to each other, a bit more understanding about each other's struggles, and work towards working with each other than trying to fight with each other. I think that's a start. And then at the international level, obviously, which is what ESMO Women for Oncology is trying to do, there are a lot of similarities as well as differences between all our different countries and the challenges we face. But we should try and band together to see what we can do about the bits that are similar and how we can improve our lot, basically. Yeah.
Sure. So now I'll move on to Dr. Bhavna Sirohi. So Bhavna, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, Jyoti. Thank you.
Yeah, hi. So Bhavna is working in a different setup in a big corporate hospital, and I really want to hear you, Bhavna, that what is your experience regarding a perception of a woman colleague or senior by your junior people, junior male colleagues, or other staff members, even how they take listening from you, whether you feel a subtle bias in that, or how, what is your perception?
So, thank you, Jyoti, for organizing this session. It's very pivotal, actually. And for me, I think having spent almost 2 decades in London and back in India, so I've seen it from both sides. And I come from a state in India where, female infanticide is there. The girls are married before they turn 18. And so I feel I have fought since I was probably in my teens to become a doctor, and then, and then gone through the various rungs of ladder of training and everything. So the scenario is the same in global oncology as well. There is the old boys network in the West, and similarly we have the same kind of network in low and middle income group countries as well. So I feel that, there are a lot of challenges and problems which all the earlier speakers and panelists have elaborated it very nicely. I feel that I think we have to look beyond it and come up with solutions. Working in a corporate sector, I've been lucky and blessed that I've had amazing mentors, both male and female actually, at Tata Hospital and then at Royal Marsden, and who have really mentored me. So I think as women oncologists, because you, me, and a lot of us here on the panel are in key leadership positions. I am in a key leadership position in a corporate sector. So as leaders, I think we have to amplify the voices of women and put women on the table in leadership roles. So when I organize a meeting, I had a huge argument with one of my male colleagues because I wanted to make sure that the panelists were, or the speakers were 50-50, 50% women and 50% male. So it was a challenge because you had to discuss with your colleagues, but you can make it happen. And yes, you are labeled difficult, you are labeled aggressive, but I think we have the position we've reached with a lot of effort and fighting as well, I would say. So I think this is something we should do, and it applies to publications as well, in both in academics, research, and education, where we have to put women on the table. And I think this is happening in India. And people like you, Kumar, Sudeep, amazing leadership in ISMPO, which is actually truly doing it by getting more people on the table. I think this is what, so as far as juniors or seniors are concerned in the corporate world, I think the whole dynamics is changing. We have more women leaders, and you can see that in both in South and North India. A lot of my colleagues have said, North India and South India also there's a huge difference. I won't get into it because it'll take a lot of time, because of the dynamics and the patriarchal and the cultural nuances that we have in India. So maybe some other time we'll talk about it. So I think I would just say that, as women leaders, we ourselves, it's our responsibility to make sure that, we change the climate in India.
Sure. So thank you very much, Bhavna, and yes, happy fighting. So we have to pitch in wherever there is some gender bias, be it overt or be it subconscious. I will move to Dr. Pinasini quickly, and then if Dr. Pilar, we again have Dr. Pilar because we lost her in between. So if she is there, then we will hear her views on the discussion going on. So Dr. Vasini. Or Dr. Mansi, can you connect now? I don't want to miss on anybody who is on the panel. Otherwise, we'll go back to the people whom I already discussed. Okay. So, whenever you are able to join or connect, please on your camera so that I can identify. Now, expectation towards the very last part of our panel in the interest of time. So, expectation from international national societies. We are having none other than Dr. Solange Peters with us, and Dr. Pilar Jerry who is, they can really make some differences. So what are the expectations from different countries? Ramila, you start. What kind of support you feel that it should be from the international societies?
Yes. Thank you so much. I think we cannot change this gender gap and equality in just few days, but I think, we are doing multitasking, we are doing a lot of hard work, but if we get something if we feel that somebody is in our back, and just for an example, I got connected with Dr. Bhavna, and I was a part of multidisciplinary tumor board, and I got connected with Dr. Jyoti, and then we have now, I presented in one of the recent conferences, and now I am invited as a panelist. So even this small sort of appreciations really give us a lot of motivation. It's like hard work we are doing night and day, juggling between family and work. So I think if we get some motivation from national and international sectors, it will be a very, very point to go on.
So I'm really sorry to interrupt in between because I have to really move fast in the interest of time. So I get your point that we have to create space, and we want from societies that we need to see where we can create a space for a woman oncologist. And Dr. Asima, one very quick 30 seconds remark from you. What do you want from?
I would suggest the distant mentorship should be strengthened.
Very important.
We need mentors who can guide us for the leadership roles and progress further and share their experiences. We should make a forum for that.
Right. So distinct mentorship and distinct sponsorship are very, very important. Dr. Solange, you want to comment upon? I think in the countries like ours where there no structured mentorship or sponsorship program, I think it's very meaningful, and we are already doing efforts from our W4O team in ESMO. So do you want to comment upon that?
Yes, thanks a lot. I think just very shortly, we need your help there because building mentorship programs is very difficult. It's maybe what we struggle with in ESMO since a while. Not only women, also young oncologists, right? How can you efficiently follow someone? Not only giving one an advice which is lost somewhere, but follow someone being efficient, promoting him or her. So you need to find a way to help us defining it, and you need to find the good mentor, or we will even call him sponsor, because he has to help you. But the way we build mentorship programs, sponsorship programs, we really need maybe the national societies to help us to know what is useful for you. English speaking, for example, regional, international, US, UK, Switzerland. So we need to know how we can really help, because I think the needs, if they are better defined, can be reached in terms of, at the end, deliverables, right? So it's really something, I must say, which remains to me partially a question mark, because every environment has different needs, right?
Sure. Dr. Siupen, again, I will move on to you for a very, important issue. Briefly, Dr. Solange discussed at the time of her talk about the current very burning issue of sexual harassment. So this is, at a subtle level, it is an overt level also. What do you think the current situation is, and your thoughts on that?
Obviously, we all know that it's an issue. It still exists. And I think that we had this discussion, Jyoti. I think it makes sense for us to get some data on this issue. I'm all for doing a survey if it's possible, with working with the right people. I don't know whether ESMO has someone who is expertise in this area to look at sexual harassment in our medical field, especially in oncology, because I think we might find things that we never knew, and we might find some data that might surprise us, because it's an issue that obviously people don't like to talk about. Yeah.
Sure. So I think
that's a very touchy topic, though.
Absolutely. Janice, we'll move on to you for any other issues you feel important for today's discussion. And we have discussed.
Just to add, thank you, Jyoti. I think just to add a little note, I think especially the verbal sexual harassment, just to echo Zibin, sometimes it's actually very tangential and very subtle. I think it would be nice if we could study that further. I think we have covered quite a lot in the past hour, especially with Lan's sharing and also inspiration and sharing of different perspectives. I think most importantly, I think education is very important. Whether we can incorporate working with our male and female colleagues even back in downstreams for medical education. I remember when I was actually serving as a vice president for the Hong Kong Women's Medical Association, and we attended the International Women's Association. We actually visited the UY University in Korea. It's a female medical school, but there is compulsory curriculum that they need to be taught how to deal with their male colleagues. I think it shouldn't be just one side. Perhaps it should be both ways. So if we could have some humanities program under the umbrella of humanities program, especially psychology, learning about the psychology of male and female related to biology, I think that would be very important, especially some cultural issues as well, because different ethnic culture are unique, and there are some conscious and unconscious bias just uniquely related to that particular group. So I think that might also give us extra power, as we would love to enhance or change the structure in any of this system.
So very important point, I think, and the difference, the psychology is different, the biology is different, and for a similar kind of situations, even if there are a woman and a man who are having same skill set, they are same educated, they are same position, then also the reactions may differ because of the difference in their psychology, biology, or the cultural differences. So this is an important point, and we need to, really train ourselves and society for that. Dr. Reena and Dr. Smriti, I want to hear from you and the last word from Solange, and then we will conclude. So, Dr. Smriti.
Yeah, thanks, Jyoti, for inviting us to this session, and it has brought out very important issues. I must say that Dr. Reena and myself, as Reena already alluded to, we began our medical oncology careers almost at the same time in Tata Memorial Hospital, and I must bring out that we were fortunate that we did not face many of the challenges that you have discussed today. We should be honest about that. And in fact, our teachers and mentors like Dr. Shetty and Dr. Advani were always very supportive and encouraging. And fortunately, we have not faced any gender bias in our careers. And now I am in a private setup. And I do find that, of course, you need to be a little more perseverant to be recognized, rather than your male colleagues. You need to persevere a bit more. You need to be a little better off in your knowledge to actually make your presence felt. But this gender bias is on the, it's coming down, and I think times are improving. And with this sort of issues being discussed openly, and I think it would mean that in the future, this gender bias may altogether disappear and we would be on equal terms.
Sure, Dr. Reena, your thoughts on? I think Dr. Reena is also facing some connection issues. She's just.
Jyoti, can I just take few seconds?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, okay. So regarding this only last issue of sexual harassment, it is more subtle most of the times rather than obvious. But I have actually, I know about one of my resident doctors who had this problem. And what she told me when she met me, she said, I don't know whom to go to and complain. So I think that is where the role of either women support team in the hospitals or sexual harassment cell in the hospital, I think it is need of an hour.
Sure, that's an important point, and many institutions, they are taking care about this important issue, and I think the problem is global, and with the Me Too moment, it is becoming even more recognized and more on surface. Solange, your last few words, and then I will conclude.
Thanks a lot. My last few words will be on this topic of sexual harassment, because it's, for me, a pretty new chapter, right? Across all surveys, we've been describing that probably it's a very hot topic, but we haven't been inquiring about the details and the reality everywhere we are as women. So what I would say is, besides the work we do for Women for Oncology, I think the sexual harassment it's part of, but it's a new chapter. And I think we should follow the same path. First of all, like it was told before, we need to fix definitions. Where does the sexual harassment start and when does it end? Remember how it was difficult to define what harassment, moral harassment could be. So sexual harassment needs a definition that we will use to fix the beginning and the end of sexual harassment. Then we will have to do, like for gender gap, to describe. And this is going to be tricky. No, we have no one in ESMO being specialized in that. We need to find somebody who might be a psychologist or a psychiatrist, somebody really skilled in social management and communication management to help us doing a survey in India, in Switzerland, in France, and as ESMO to describe the picture. And only once we will have done it, a bit like we did for gender gap, we'll have to propose solutions, right? It has probably a lot of granularity, which might be very disgusting, but we don't know about. So I think it's an effort to start. And if we can have one aim for this last COVID year, I hope it might be to start that, right?
So thank you very much. I think it was indeed wonderful and very intense discussion. I think it should never end, but in the interest of time, we have to move, and we will continue to continue this momentum in whatever best possible manner. And here I would conclude with few of the quotes which I like. And it is time that we all see gender as a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals. Next time you are about to call a little girl bossy, say instead she has executive leadership skills, and I really mean it. We have to make our next generation much more cautious about about the women, of men, and their stereotyping. Cultures does not make people; people make culture. If it is true that the full humanity of women is not our culture, then we can and we must make it our culture. And men are from earth, women are also from earth. So deal with it. And we cannot just get away by saying that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, so they are different and they have to deal differently. I think it is high time that people should perceive that there is a need of gender equity. It is not an issue of a woman, but it is a issue of human. Thank you very much.